Greetings and welcome to BeIndie.biz. My name is Alan Thorn, and in this course we're going to see how to build an infinite runner game from start to end. This course is available completely free of charge. All of the assets, all of the materials, all of the stuff presented here you can download and use completely free and learn how to make a video game from start to end. If you've never made a video game before, and you want to learn how to get started in the games industry, then this is the course for you. Let's take a look at the game we're going to be building over this set of videos. This game, I've called it Trailblazer, and it's an infinite runner. What you have to do in this game is move this character left and right using the arrow keys on the keyboard to avoid the oncoming obstacles. The aim is to see how long you can survive. Now, I've played this game. I'm not wonderful at it, but I did pretty well. I survived for a total of 180 seconds, so if you follow along and build this game with me, let's see if you can beat that score. Now, we're going to be looking at how to put together the entirety of this game. We're going to be putting together and assembling the environment. We're going to be configuring the character and creating character animations to work inside the game. We're going to be programming script files to get the gameplay working as intended. Every step of the way, we're going to be assembling this game, and you're going to see that process from start to end. If you've never made a game before, or you've never even tried programming, don't worry, this course will show you how to do all of that stuff. So I'm Alan Thorn, and I've been a game developer for 20 years, and I've been teaching games for 4 years, and I absolutely love what I do. I'm going to show you a professional workflow from taking your game from start to finish. This is a really great place to get started with game development. I'm delighted to have you join me on this course. All you need to do is to subscribe to our channel and follow the videos as they are released to put together this infinite runner game. Without further ado, let's get started. Great, so let's get started creating our infinite runner game. Now, to start making any game, we need to get access to the right tools. And in our case, that comes down to software. I'm going to be using a game engine. That's a program for making a game. And in this instance, we're going to be using the Unity engine. There are many engines out there, but the engine I'm going to choose, which is used by a lot of different game studios today, is the Unity engine. Now, to get access to that, you just need to search Google for Unity, as I have done here. There's a whole ton of stuff here with Unity, but you just need to search for Unity. And right at the very top, unity.com, that's what we want to access. So I'm going to click on unity.com here. When we get to the website, I'm simply going to choose the Get Started button here. To move to the download page, we get the option of the Personal Pro or the Plus edition, but in each case, we get access to the complete feature set of the Unity engine. I'm going to choose the Personal Edition here, which you can get 2 for free. Then I'll click on the Start Here button. Now, when you do that, you'll have to accept the terms and conditions here. It tells you what they are. This will give you access to the Unity Hub program, which will be downloaded to your computer. That's available on both Windows and Mac. I'm using a Mac in this instance, but you can also access that on Windows. This will give you access to the Unity Hub application. And this application is really responsible for downloading the latest version of Unity to your computer, and it keeps track of recent projects that you may have opened. In this instance, I have access to Unity Hub 2.0.4. By the time you're watching this video, it's likely that there'll be a later version of the Unity Hub available. Unity are updating this application practically all of the time. So you're going to have a later version than me, but in any case, this is where you can download the latest version of the Unity engine. Now, if your Unity Hub doesn't immediately direct you to do that, you can move down here to the Installs section, which is a list of all the different versions of Unity on your computer. Now, I'm going to be using 2019.2. If you don't see that in the list here, you can easily download and install it by moving to the Add button here and then choosing 2019.2 from the list. I can't pick that because it's already on my computer, and then simply choose Next to follow the installation wizard and that will put Unity onto your computer. Now, when you've done that, you want to switch to the Projects tab. This is where we create games or load existing games that we've made. In the world of Unity, one project equals one game. I'm going to click on the New button here to create a completely new project to begin our process of making a game. I'm going to select the 3D option here. Unity comes with a range of different templates. For example, we can choose 2D if we're making a 2D game, and there are other presets that we can choose, but they all ultimately lead to the same place, which is the Unity engine. I'm going to select the 3D option and type a name for my game. In this case, I'm going to choose Trailblazer, and then basically I'm going to click on Create. Now, when I do that, it's going to generate a Unity project and take me directly to the Unity editor. So I'm going to click Create, and I'll resume recording back inside the Unity editor, ready to get started. So after creating your first Unity project, you'll end up here, which is the default Unity interface. And this is where we're going to be spending at least 80% of our time as developers. A significant chunk of your time is going to be spent right here making games. Now, in this Unity editor, be careful because it's deceptive. It looks pretty straightforward and pretty simple. We've got a lot of panels and most of them seem completely empty, but there's a lot going on here. Now, by default, we're going to begin in the Scene tab. This is where we're going to be building our worlds and our levels. We also have the Game tab that we can switch to. And this is basically the view of our game from the point of view of the player. If the player were to be handed our completed game, this is what they would see. And right now, it really isn't interesting. It's an empty world with a sky. Now, the left-hand side here, we have the hierarchy panel. We can click on this little twirly icon to expand it. And effectively, this is a list of everything inside our game world. And right now, we just have two objects. One is a camera, and that is basically the point of view of the player inside the level. And then we have a directional light, which is casting illumination and light throughout our game world. So we have a pretty empty game environment, and we want to populate that with our things for our infinite runner. We want floors, walls, doors, ceilings, all kinds of architectural elements that we can put into the level to make a game. We need to get that. Now, you can choose to make these assets yourselves using third-party modeling software like Blender or Maya or 3ds Max, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go directly to the Unity Asset Store, which is an online marketplace where we can download assets. Some of these assets are completely free of charge. We're going to be using the free ones, but there are also additional assets that you can purchase if you want to do so. So I'm going to switch to the Unity Asset Store. You'll find a tab for it here. But if you don't see that tab, you can instead go to the File menu and choose Window and General. Actually, it's not under General, it's up here of Control 9 or Command 9 on a Mac, which is the Asset Store. It may ask you to log in. You just need to create a free Unity account to log in. Once you've logged in, you're going to get access to the Asset Store, and you can choose to search for different types of assets. For example, I'm going to choose Sci-Fi Modular, and that's going to give me different environment pieces that I can use to build a world. So I've got lots of options here. I'm going to sort these, not by relevance, but by the price from low to high. So basically all of the free options are going to appear towards the top. I'm going to scroll down and then find this one here made by Barking Dog, the 3D free modular kit. Now this contains a complete collection of assets that allows us to build science fiction worlds. I'm going to click on that option and it will take us to more details about the assets. We can look at the thumbnails to view these assets and to see what they look like. We're going to be using some of these for our game world. I'm going to click on the cross here to close that dialog and then move over here to the import button. Now for you, it might say download. It says import for me because I've already downloaded the package, and once you've downloaded it, you then need to import that. That is to bring it into this project here. So first of all, go ahead and click the download button. And after you've clicked download, then click the import button. Now, when you do this, Unity will present you with a menu that looks something like this. It contains a complete list of all the contents of this asset pack. So, for example, all the different architectural elements like columns, doors, fans, floor, all of these different pieces are going to work together like Lego bricks that we can use to put together a complete game world. I'm going to make sure all of these items are ticked. If there are items that are not checked here, you can simply move down to the bottom here to the bottom left-hand side, click the All button to make sure all of these are ticked, and then simply move to the bottom right-hand side to choose the Import button to bring these assets into your project. You'll get this loading dialog here as Unity begins to import the assets into your Unity project. It could take a while, but at the end of it, you're going to get the assets imported down here inside the area here that says Project. Now this means that these different architectural elements have been brought into this Unity project. They still don't appear in our game world, but they're included down here in our library so that we can use them when we need them. Now you'll notice that below this, at the very, very bottom here, we've got this red error message printed in red here to indicate, hey, there's a problem. That there really isn't a problem. I'm going to move to the console here and simply choose the clear button to wipe away all of those problems. I know that seems like we're sweeping them under the carpet just so that we don't see them, but really we are not. There isn't a problem with these assets for us at all. I'm going to go back to the project panel, and we have a folder here that wasn't there before, and this is the folder that contains all of the assets that we just downloaded and imported. I can double click that folder and double click again into this free modular set here. If you don't like the way these icons are presented, you can change that too. I'm going to move to the bottom right hand side to take a look at this scroll bar that controls the size of these thumbnails inside the project panel. I can drag this to the right to make them larger, but I can drag it all the way to the left if I want to see the full name of all the folders and the assets. I'm going to double click on that to see what we have. We have folders called meshes, prefabs, and textures. If I take a look at the prefabs folder, for example, you'll see that we've got a ton of stuff that we can simply drag and drop into the level directly. For example, let's take a look at, let's try and select a wall arc. I'm going to select that by left clicking on it with the mouse. And in the right hand side, in this area here on the bottom right hand side, I can click and drag inside this preview window here to get a view of the asset. And in this case, you can see it's a curved piece for the corner of a wall. I can drag and drop that directly into the level here. And initially I can't seem to see anything because actually what I'm looking at here inside the viewport is the back of this model. Inside Unity and most game engines, all the models are one-sided. That is, we can only see them from one side, and from the reverse side, they're actually invisible. So in the case of this wall here, I am looking at the wall, but I'm looking at the reverse side, which means that to me, it looks transparent. I just need to take a look from the other side. I can do that by rotating the viewport around to take a look from this side, and there it is. Now, if you're wondering, how did I do that? How did I rotate this viewport? Well, here are the basic viewport controls that you absolutely need to know. So on a Windows PC, you're going to hold down the Alt key on the keyboard. On a Mac, that's going to be the Option key. Now, with the Option key held down, you can left click and drag your mouse to rotate the view around. Now, if you want to left click to select an object and you want to center that in the viewport, click on the object and then press the F key on the keyboard. F for frame or for Freddy. I'm going to press F. That will center this object inside the viewport. Now, when I hold down the Alt or the Option key and left click and drag my mouse, I'm going to be rotating around that object so that I can see this inside my view. Now, I can zoom in and zoom out of the view by rolling my middle mouse wheel. If I'm using a trackpad on a laptop, for example, then you can simply place your two fingers on the trackpad and slide them up or slide them down to zoom in and zoom out of the viewport. And on some control systems, you can also pinch and zoom to zoom in your viewport. I can also hold down the right mouse button on the mouse to rotate my view. And with that right mouse button held down, I can use the W, A, S, and D keys on the keyboard to use first person navigation. So in this instance, I've brought in this wall as an example. When I select this wall in the scene, you can see on the left-hand side that actually this entire object is selected here. And I can even add more objects. So for example, there's a floor element here, which we're going to be using shortly. I can drag and drop the floor into the scene to add that to the world. I can drag in, again, a duplicate of the floor. So actually we've got two this time, and I can kind of match these up inside the level. We'll see soon how we can move these objects around and rotate them and translate them. But all I need to do to add these objects is simply to go to the project panel in the prefabs folder and drag and drop them directly in the scene to begin adding and manipulating these objects. Now I've just gone ahead and added these objects pretty much at random just to show you how to do it. But of course, in this instance, I really don't want to keep these objects that I've just added for demonstration purposes. I'm going to remove them from the scene. You can do that by selecting the object. On a Windows PC, you want to use a delete key, and on a Mac computer, you can use Command Backspace to remove those. Alternatively, I could move to the hierarchy panel here, left click on the top one, left click on the bottom one while holding down the Shift key on the keyboard to multiple select these items, and then use the Shift Backspace key to delete those as a complete group. Perfect. Now I'm going to begin making my level by adding a floor piece. So I'm going to move down here to the prefabs folder, select the floor piece here, drag and drop that into the level, and I can see that's been added. Now Unity uses a coordinate system, and all of the units are measured in meters. When I take a look at this selected object here, I can see its properties here inside the object inspector on the right hand side. Now under the transform component, I can see the key properties of this object, its position, its rotation and scale in 3D space. By taking a look at its position, you can see its coordinates in 3D space. Now by default, Unity has added these to a really strange position. I don't want that. I want to put this to the world origin at 0, 0, 0. Now I could try to maneuver this visually by eye inside the viewport. I'll show you how to do that in just a second, but I'm going to manually type in the coordinates exactly. So I'm going to move to the object inspector, move to the position field, type 0, move to the Y field. I can also use the tab key to change between those text boxes, go to the Z field and type 0, and there we have it. This object has now been positioned exactly at the world origin. Now, if I wanted to move this object manually and visually here inside the Scene tab, that's really easy to do too, and it's an important skill to memorize these shortcuts that I'm about to tell you. So we have this floor piece that I've added. Now I can use the gizmo inside the scene here, that is these three arrows, to move this object around in the scene. For example, I can left click and drag on the blue arrow to move the object left and right. I can left click and drag on the red axis to move it forwards and backwards, and I can click and drag on this axis to move it up and down. Now in doing that, I've moved it around the scene. I did that because the translate tool up here on the top left hand side was activated. I've called it the translate tool, but Unity calls it the move tool. Move and translate are the same thing here. Now I can access this using a keyboard shortcut. To access the move tool, you want to press the W key on the keyboard. That is W for Windows, even though I'm on a Mac. I can also move to the rotate tool here, and I can access that by pressing the E key on the keyboard, E for eggs. And when I access the rotate tool, you'll see that the gizmo changes its appearance. It changes from arrows to these kind of spheres or circles here. So in this instance, I can left click and drag on the red circle to rotate the object. And you can see the rotational values in angles, degrees here around the X axis. I'm going to press Command Z to undo that. I can also rotate on the blue axis. That's the Z axis here. And the same thing for the Y axis here. and every time it's rotating around its pivot point, which is the location of these axes here, I've switched back to the translate or the move tool by using the W key. Now I can also access the scale tool, which is this one here. You can press the R key, R for Robert, on the keyboard to access the scale tool. And this allows you to make objects larger or smaller simply by clicking and dragging the keys here. I can click and drag from the center cube here to change the dimensions of the object uniformly, that is by the same amount on the X, Y, and the Z axis. You can see the values here. Alternatively, I can click and drag on the axis individually to change the size of this object. Now, I almost never want to use the scale tool. There are a ton of reasons why you want to avoid scale wherever possible. If you want to make your objects bigger or smaller, generally I recommend that you do that in the 3D modeling software and not inside Unity. So let me repeat that. I almost never use the scale tool. There are a whole bunch of reasons for that I'm not going to get to in this course. But generally, be careful with scale. It can cause some interesting problems. Mostly, I stick to the move tool and the rotate tool to change the rotation and position of objects in the scene. So this has demonstrated the real basics and the fundamentals of using the Unity engine. In the next video, in the next movie in this series, we're going to be using these assets provided in this modular sci-fi kit to put together the level for our infinite runner. We're going to see a ton of different level design techniques to build an interesting infinite runner level. So stay tuned.